What's it for?
So this is for the TV show The Package. So your soundbite will be in our package in the legalization of marijuana. Um, Before we get started, do you have a time limit? Do you have like 15 minutes, 10 minutes?
Yeah, I mean, whatever it takes to get it done. I was in a department head meeting, but I skipped out for this. So
Oh,
whatever questions you have, I'm here. I think this is an important topic.
absolutely. Yeah.
In the
Um,
position I'm in, I feel it's kind of an obligation to spread the word, and in my opinion, you know.
yeah, no, I completely understand. Just before we get started, can you tell me a little bit about what you do, your position, and who you are?
Yep, my name is Todd Hood. I'm the Madison County Sheriff. It's a county right in the middle of New York State. We have about 77,000 people. The universities in my county are Colgate University, Morrisville State College, and Casanova College. It's roughly 604 square miles. I'm one of 61 or 62 sheriffs across the state. There's 59 of us that are elected. The other ones in New York City are appointed. So the term's a 4-year term for the office of sheriff, and every county is mandated to have a sheriff and maintain a correctional facility. We do the road patrol, children's advocacy center, uh, and civil division.
Awesome. That's a lot of responsibilities. So why have you become so passionate about the opposition of legalizing marijuana? Why are you opposed to it?
Oh, there's a lot going on in law enforcement. I'm pretty passionate about a few things. I'm definitely not happy with the bail reform in New York State. You know, crime's up across the state. Some of the cities with violent crimes are up 130% where bullets actually enter people's bodies. So, kind of a lack of accountability. You know, people want to experiment with people's safeties by implementing. Bail reform was essentially a program where any felony and all A misdemeanors were mandated that we had to give appearance tickets in New York State. And they experimented basically, but there's a whole lot of horrific crimes that you can do that fall under those categories where we simply have to give somebody an appearance ticket and let them walk down the street with no accountability. But so that's one of the issues I discuss frequently, and so is legalization of marijuana, which is what we're going to talk today about, from what I understand.
Yes, sir. So why do you believe the legalization is harmful? Marijuana.
With legalizing it,
Yes.
uh, so my main thought on that is, you know, it's like anything. It's like alcohol. You know, if there's no restrictions on things like this, it becomes a problem. And if it's not checked, you know, marijuana can be highly addictive. You know, I don't know if you have any friends or know people who are chronic, but they smoke every day in the morning and they can't even function without it. And my thought on the whole process is, why open the floodgates across our country? So my son, my oldest son, was a trooper up in Vermont. He's 24 years old. He's a Syracuse police officer now. He was up in Vermont when they legalized marijuana, and it was, you know, each person was allowed to have 3 plants or 6 plants or something like that. And I remember him sending me pictures where there were just fields of it all over the place. You know, he would drive in some rural areas. He was stationed out of Rutland, and it was just no holds barred. And anybody that came through, like, you know, it's not probable cause to stop somebody for marijuana like it is in New York now. You know, if you stop somebody for the smell of marijuana or open burning and you find a gun stuffed in their pants, that's probable cause. They didn't have that up there. And a lot of the drug dealers that are dealing meth and morphine and fentanyl and all that stuff, you know, they possess marijuana all the time too. That's part of their daily routine, you know, when they're out selling drugs, some of them. So it's a tool for law enforcement. It's only a violation, but taking that away, you're going to solve less major crimes. You know, people that got stopped for those, it's like speeding. You know, we don't have to write tickets for speeding or marijuana. You can turn in small amounts and give somebody a warning. It's only a violation. But if you take the power away from the police as a probable cause stop, you're tying their hands a little bit as far as you know, you stop somebody for marijuana, you give them a break, but if you find they have 5 kilos of crack cocaine in the back of their car, well, you know, that's one drug dealer you're getting off the street. I guess I'd like to say, if you want it, go to a doctor and get a note. You know, if you're in that much pain or you're suffering from some type of thing that the marijuana helps you, let's
Yeah.
keep some restrictions on it. Go see your local doctor. Nobody cares if you're smoking marijuana in your house or in your backyard, but
Mhm.
when it's out in the mainstream and your kids are walking through the smoke because somebody's on the corner, it's quite frankly, it's really annoying. I don't know if you've ever experienced anything like that, but it's kind of disrespectful. You
Mhm.
know, smoking in general, you know, I don't like it either. You know, if I walk through cigarette smoke, I'm annoyed. But marijuana, you know, and someone's acting nonsensical in public and intoxicated on that, it's kind of just a distraction that you know, maybe it's just me, but I'd like to see restrictions on it where go to your doctor and get a note for it, and then you can get it as a prescription drug.
No, absolutely. I saw that you did a press conference with the other sheriffs at the Oneida station.
Mhm.
And I was going to bring that up because what do you believe? So, what happens if somebody can't get a medical marijuana card? What are your thoughts on that? And they need it to for chronic pain or for something along the lines of that. What are your thoughts on that?
I can't think of a doctor that wouldn't prescribe it for chronic pain. I mean, it's definitely better than opioids. You talk to people that are on fentanyl and morphine, you know, I don't think there's a doctor in the world that wouldn't write a prescription for marijuana over those two drugs. You know, and when we see the results of them, you know, they're both brutal and can lead to massive amounts of addiction later on. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. Um, so what is the correlation between marijuana and the crime rate down in Cayuga for you guys?
well, I'm Madison County,
Oh,
so
Madison. I'm so sorry, Madison. Yeah.
what's the correlation between what?
The crime rate and marijuana. So like the difference in like this traffic stops and possible deaths, crimes, you know what I mean? Just the correlation between that.
Well, I sent you that Colorado study. I don't specifically have it for Madison County, but you know, the statistics are off the charts. When Colorado legalized marijuana, numerous things went up, mostly traffics and traffic fatalities. As far as the crimes, you know, is it associated with crime? I guess if you're dealing high levels in your trafficking, yes. I mean, people get killed for marijuana trafficking and murdered just as they do for any other drug. I don't know the statistics on it as far as, you know, more people are killed one way or another, but you know, I've seen plenty of drug house home invasions where people go in to rob drug dealers that are simply selling marijuana, but they have 80, $90,000 just from marijuana sales, you know, the illegal sales where another criminal sees that and they're going to go in and take it because somebody has something they don't. And they go in there with guns, tie people up and do home invasions over marijuana even. But I can get into the traffic fatalities and crimes with that if you want. So when Colorado legalized marijuana, and this was like 4 years ago, recreational marijuana was legalized. Like I said, I don't have a problem with the medical marijuana at all, just the recreational. Uh, Traffic deaths increased 151%. So, you know, you can't play with those numbers. And all deaths in Colorado that were traffic related went up 35%. So that tells you some people on alcohol also had marijuana in their system too, that it was marijuana related. Since it was legalized, uh, traffic deaths involving drivers who tested positive for marijuana doubled. So in 2013, it was 55. 2017, it was 138. And that's just one state. So, you know, if you look at it, each state across the country with legalization of marijuana, give or take around 100 more people a year, you know, would die from traffic related deaths involving marijuana. Go across the state times 50, right? It's
Absolutely
50
right.
times 50 times 100, and that's going to be your yearly death rate for the one that was really interesting in Colorado was basically someone drives from a marijuana related death driving every 1.5 days, and then it went up to every it was 6.5 days somebody died from a marijuana related traffic death, and when they legalized it, every 2.5 days somebody died from it in Colorado. So,
Okay. Um, so if marijuana is legalized on April 1st in New York State, how is it going to affect your job and other people in law enforcement, and how are you going to react to it?
Yeah, I mean, we follow the rules. The laws are implemented. You know, there's definitely a majority in Senate and Assembly in New York State where, in my opinion, they're making decisions. You know, and they're elected, they're in there, but they're making decisions that are going to really affect the citizens of New York State with safety. You know, we're all about saving lives in law enforcement. So why do we write traffic tickets, right? Do we really like going out there and pulling people over? No, we write them because people get killed for speeding. You know, you get a 16-year-old kid going 100 miles an hour, you give him a ticket and he realizes, oh, I guess I shouldn't do that. He's not thinking about the death thing that the police officer sees, you know, when they hit a tree or a telephone pole going that fast. It's the same thing with drugs, with fentanyl. You know, why do we go after the drug dealers? Well, people haven't been paying attention. There's a national crisis with overdose in our country with heroin and everything else like that. Marijuana is the same way. You know, it impairs your ability to drive, your speech, your thought process. You know, it can be the difference at a traffic light when you're stopping before the traffic light, and then your perception on marijuana, you stop underneath it and you don't even realize it, you know, because your brain's lagging that much. So that's our goal in law enforcement. You know, everyone even asked me, you know, I was on SWAT teams, you know, when I was a Syracuse detective for 24 years. Our main goal is to save lives. You know, when we go in there, we don't want people to die on barricaded gunmen. We want to talk to them and get them to come out of the house and surrender. That's always our objective in law enforcement. And this is just one more thing that falls in line with that. And that's why I'm not on board with legalizing it.
Oh, absolutely. Um, what would you say to people when they say that our communities could grow financially from this?
Yeah, in Colorado, it was less than a percent of 1% that came in. I forget the numbers. Hang on a minute. They had black market. So black market like skyrised. I know it did up in Vermont also, but it was less than 1% of a percent that they raised income. What happens is when you legalize it, all the other states that are legal flood your state because it's a market, right? They're going to come in and sell. So if I can bring in, you know, 5 50-pound bales, you know, at $1,000 a pound, that's $50,000 per bale to come into New York State from another state where it's legal and sell it. There's going to be no revenue coming into our state because obviously the lowest price prevails in the market, right? You shop around, you look for a new piece of clothing and you find the cheapest one that you like the best. Well, if that's being flooded, the market's being flooded with black market, and it is, everything is. Look at New York State. There's cigarettes is a massive black market trade in New York State. You know, we catch them all the time coming down the thruway, running from different agencies who make their own cigarettes. And there's taxes on those things. So that's a black market. People smuggle them in from places where they don't have to pay taxes. And it's the same thing with marijuana. But I forget some of the numbers. Seizures were off the charts for the black market in the financial part of the whole thing.
Right. So New York State Assemblywoman and Majority Leader Crystal Peoples-Stokes, we interviewed her and she will also be in the package. She has been a supporter of legalizing marijuana since 2013. She introduced the Marijuana Regulation Taxation Act. So she said she wants to see a statute with a precise percentage of tax revenues dedicated to the communities hardest hit by inequities in marijuana prosecutions. What do you think about that?
Yeah, like I said, it's an experimentation with people's lives and health, you know, for what reason, what, you know, maybe she likes to smoke marijuana. I don't know, whatever her motive is, that's her motive. And if she wants to get it legalized, that's her right. And she's elected, she's in there. I'm just telling you from law enforcement, when you legalize it, there's no holds barred. It comes in from everywhere, and enforcement is extremely difficult. Like you see somebody smoking a joint on a corner. Hey, did you pay tax on that? Do you ask somebody that when you see him smoking a cigarette? No, you don't care where they got it. It's legal, right? But all that revenue and the taxation does not go to the state of New York. You know, as much as people want to put this out there that everything's going to be fine and we'll implement better laws for driving while intoxicated. Well, the people that are doing that stuff, They don't care about it anyways, right? Otherwise they wouldn't be doing it. You know, it's like drinking and driving. If you're impaired, why get behind the wheel? And the people that do it don't care. It's that simple. At that particular time in their life, anyways, when they're intoxicated or high.
Right. Um, I'm trying to see because we like kind of went over all my other questions.
You know, I get it. It's one of those things. I mean, you're a college age person, right? How
Mhm.
many times are you driving down the road and you smell the car in front of you from within your vehicle, and you're like, they're riding around a group of people smoking pot, and you can totally tell that they're smoking marijuana, right? So
Mhm.
what stops them? Nothing. You know, they don't want to smoke it in their house around their parents, so they get in their car and they head out and they smoke it in their car and they get in a crash because somebody's high that's driving. So uh,
Yeah.
I know in the universities and colleges, it's very prevalent, correct? Right?
Mhm.
It's all over the place. Like when you walk down your dormitory, you smell pot a lot of the time, probably, right? Right? Imagine if they legalize it. That's with it being a violation right now. Imagine if there's no more, you know, no more restrictions on the whole thing. And are you allowed to smoke cigarettes in your dorm? You probably don't smell much of that either, because they actually go outside. But in the marijuana, there's no holds barred in the dorms. So it's just a thought.
No, right. Um, Sorry, I'm just trying to like kind of look real quick. Um, do you have a sort like a an example you could bring up? Just like a story from the impact of marijuana in something you saw on the streets, just to give people an idea or look, no names or anything, but just an example, a story that.
Yeah, I've solved homicides with marijuana before. People smoking a joint in public. You know, they're not supposed to be in there smoking. You stop them. They got a gun in their back, stuffed in their pants. Pull it out, run the ballistics on the gun 4 or 5 months from now, and the gun comes back used in a murder. You know, we went back and solved homicides for it. You know, drug houses get information they were dealing marijuana out of the house. So you go and you do a search warrant on the house, and you find out, lo and behold, that they were dealing of fentanyl and heroin and crack cocaine and every other drug out of there also.
Right.
So there's many things people don't take into consideration. And I'll tell you something about a lot of the lawmakers nowadays. None of them talk to the police. These people that are implementing these laws, like my congresswoman's Rachel May, she doesn't talk to the cops at all. She was one of the sponsors of bail reform, and I think she's down with this legislation also to legalize marijuana. They never talk to the police. I got 30 years on the job of inner city policing, and I know out in Albany, I meet with all the other sheriffs. We meet twice a year for conferences, and none of this legislation, none of them have ever talked to any of us. You think you'd like to get all the sheriffs together in the whole state of New York and be like, hey, what do you think about this? Is this a good idea or not? They don't ask anybody. And it's in the state police, of course they follow the governor's mandates. They have no control over. We're at least elected by the people where we can speak out. State police aren't even allowed to speak on these issues, and they are all opposed to this.
Mhm.
You're talking about 5,000 additional cops that simply can't talk about it because they work for the governor uh, of New York State, and this is something they're trying to push through, on their side as far as legislation. But we're all about public safety and law enforcement. It'd just be nice if people talk to us about it like you. This is kind of a nice deal where people may see another side of it. And this may go through. I mean, either way, if it goes through, it is what it is. I'm just telling you now, a lot more people are going to die if they legalize it in New York State. And that may seem sensational, but it's true.
Why do you think they don't talk to you guys?
A lot of them just want it to get pushed through. That's their agenda, and they know what we're going to say. You know, you talk to most police. I'm sure there's a few that say, yeah, legalize it. Why just be done with it? Why not? But anybody that is in a leadership role and knows the statistics about it, I can't say it. What am I going to say? Yeah, legalize it, and then there's 100 extra bodies in New York State a year that died from it. Well, this could have been prevented simply by having them go to a doctor and get a note. That way, it's not just opening the floodgates. And the other thing is, you think about kids, snatching cigarettes out of their parents' pack of cigarettes in the house and going out and trying them. Now look at marijuana being in all the households, across the country. That's just more kids, 11, 10, 12 years old, who are going to be, taking something like that. Because you can put all the restrictions on it you want. Kids get a hold of things. Kids get a hold of handguns even, and they're extremely restricted in our state. So just one more thing, you're going to have more of it. There's going to be more percentages of it, and more people are going to be exposed to it.
Did you always have the stance when you started as a cop or a police officer? I'm sorry. Did you have the stance, or did you, over time through the job, decide this opinion?
Yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, I was born in the '60s, so there was a lot of stuff going on in our country, but I was too young, to see most of it. But I mean, it's always been something that's kind of not good for your health. It's like drinking and smoking and everything else. Probably not the best thing you could do if you want to live a healthy lifestyle. But a lot of them consider it like alcohol. People can go out and have a drink. It's legal. You're 21 years old. There's some restrictions, and I get it. They're trying to do the same thing with the marijuana. I just really see it, marijuana, going off the rails. I've seen a lot more kids going to school and in businesses high on marijuana than where you come in and you smell alcohol on them. I don't know why that is or what the correlation is, but I remember going to the gym at like noon, and you'd see like 15-year-old kids coming and just reeking of marijuana, and you're like, what are you doing? You guys really, you reek of this right now, and you're coming in here to work out. Where does that fall in line with a healthy lifestyle? So I don't know.
Exactly. I think that's all my questions. Do you have anything you would like to say, or anything else you want to get off your chest to maybe
Yeah,
the
yeah.
public?
Thanks for listening. Like I said, not many people do that nowadays, and not many people can see both sides of it, or sit back objectively and take a look at something. Uh, like I said, it's kind of nice in law enforcement to have somebody actually listen, because we're the ones that have to deal with all the legislation that's coming through. Nobody really cares about it. I remember when bail reform hit, we let like 20 people out of our jail Christmas Eve. I think it was like 2 years ago. And now, you know, like the news does stories about reckless driving and how reckless driving's up because of COVID and people are depressed. The reason why reckless driving's up is because there's more criminals on the street that don't care about anything. They're riding around with a pocket full of appearance tickets because they haven't been accountable in a year now. Courts are closed. They're not hearing trials in New York State for courts right now. Hopefully it'll open up after this, but there's a lot of people running around that got let out of jail because of the bail reform package, and they're driving crazy. They're running from the police because of bail reform. They just get a free pass for all those felonies and misdemeanors to go out and not be held accountable. So
Absolutely.
that's about all I have to say. But if
Okay.
you have any more questions, feel free to give me a call.
No, I'm going to stop the recording real quick and just chat with you.